Hello again! Welcome back. As usual, this is Becca going by Netcat or Netcat's Meow most places online. And once again, I will be your coder kitty, guiding through this week discussing Linden scripting language. This week, we are actually doing a bit of a break from the normal format. I had specific questions a couple weeks back from Kizzy Me on our Discord channel, and she was asking about scripting and maps, and if there's ways to face for certain scripts, whether or not to deal with certain things with rotations, and that evidently some in-world classes, they're taught to have people face a particular way. So, and the people who set these up didn't really have good explanations for what's going on with this. So we're going to actually discuss about setting up and working on your code and how to make sure that everything around is conducive to doing this well. The easy answer is it really doesn't matter how you're facing. Really, the only thing that matters is that you're in a relatively stable environment, as in you're not several meters in the air and the floor is going to disappear underneath you. I've actually had that happen. And that you can readily access everything you need to reference. The exceptions are if you're dealing with an object that's going to move, there may be some special considerations with that. Or if you're in an area where there's potentially interruptions or potential traffic that may come through, that can give you certain potential complications. We'll actually go over what some of these are and ways to deal with them. So, the ideal environment is kind of what I've got here. I actually rent a homestead sim here. I've tried to set it up as a proper role player's sim a few times, and my problem is I'm based on people's reactions, I'm pretty good with the world building and the set building and maximizing my frame usage and all the rest of that, but I'm not very good at getting people to want to show up and play. So, in an environment like this, I don't have people coming around very often, so there's not a lot to interrupt me. So this is very conducive to getting script work done. I have not always been so lucky. We're going to Yep, I remembered where my build platform was correctly. That's just a Phoenix viewer or Firestorm viewer shortcut, GTH for go to height, and then whatever altitude you want to go to. This is where I'm going to make one demonstration about things that can go wrong if you don't have enough control over your environment. Create a simple cube. This is just a very simple thing that will send to me the word test. Came through. So that was some messages from somebody about these that I need to deal with in a bit, but I can deal with that after I'm done recording. So we're going to change that to test again, but we're going to wait to save it this time. And with the floor just having become phantom, we are falling through. This can happen because of something you're playing around with building, or if you're not in control over the sim environment, somebody could be working on something and make that happen. Or in a sandbox that has an auto return, you'd want to make sure that the platform you're on doesn't wind up disappearing on you. And we try to save it. It worked this time. So the range isn't really affecting that. We are over almost 2,000 meters separate, but it does interfere with actually working on things. So that's one thing that can be a factor. This is now 5,000 meters up. Does that work? It does. So that continues to function. We're able to continue to save the script. Now, if I were using something other than owner say or a region say or something that would work anywhere in the sim, then there might be problems with actually receiving the message there. Now, these are more likely to occur on sandboxes. Another thing that you can run into in a sandbox situation is that an object can get auto-returned while you're working on it. This will give you the error script object out of range right on here. So in that particular case, it just means that the object is no longer in the same sim, so you're not able to interact with the code inside it. You can also wind up with cases of, depending on what you're doing, alright, this will cause it to send me a ping every 2 seconds. This, under normal circumstances, would get extremely annoying. What am I saying? It's still going to get annoying, but it has a genuine purpose for what we're about to demonstrate. When you're dealing with anything that can move, and especially something that can go phantom, you run the risk of, first we'll set to physical. That's the other part of it. Physics can affect a lot of things, and then phantom. You want to be very careful with that combination. Right now it's still fine because we have control over it. This box will only move in the manner that we move it. However, I release that, it goes right through the floor. It's going to keep pinging me until it actually falls through the world. So that's another thing that's a thing that can really bite you in the rear if you're dealing with physics and especially with phantom. Either one on their own is not so dangerous. There it is. Message. Object has been returned to your inventory, lost and found, because it went off-world. This will happen anytime it leaves the boundaries of the sim. The exception are if you have linked sims, which is not very common, but it does happen. It can move from one to the other if it crosses over where they're linked. So if we just set this to phantom, it's no problem. I walk right through it. Let's make that a little more obvious. I can walk right through it as if it's not there. Turn off phantom. I bump right into it. Move it up. It just stays put unless I activate physical. fun thing, you can also move things around by clicking and dragging on them when physics is enabled. And if you hold control while doing that, you can even raise it up. It's like having virtual telekinesis. But again, if you combine them, right through the world. And there are times when you'll want them to both be functional at the same time. There's even a thing called volume detect that is very useful for a detection system, but effectively makes something phantom. So if you're dealing with physical objects, set status, that's what I needed to remember. Now the code turns it physical. We can go in, turn off physics, and the moment I run this code, physics is back on. You can do the same thing. Let me just copy. I'm not going to do as much zooming in on the code as I normally do because this is less about details of specific code and more about pointing out mistakes that can be made when working on things. So right now, perfectly normal, draggable physical object, but because I clicked on it, it now fell through the world. We'll get the automatic return notice here in a moment. Another thing to worry about if you're going, there it goes, if you're going around sandboxes, is that people may be testing out vehicles or other moving objects, that these can wind up bumping into you and causing all sorts of grief that way. A lot of these probably have to do with the expectation of setting up your environment in specific ways. Which way you're facing doesn't really matter unless you're dealing with an object designed to move. There are things that do, and there are times that may be more convenient, but that's down to a specific project, not a general coding thing. There's a lot of things with set rotation and the like, but if you go back through my book and door tutorials, you will find references to local position versus just position or local rotation. These will let an object adapt to how you have it positioned. Let me see if I still have the book in my inventory. There it is. Those of you who've been following all of the old videos will probably remember this one. All of this is done with local. So it adapts itself automatically to however you have it positioned. that part is absolute. But the page turning is local. That one, I warn you, is kind of a long one. That's before I caught the idea of actually splitting tutorials up. So let's say that the only place you have to work is in a sandbox environment. So a thing you can do, if you can create an object that you can create a stable place to sit yourself. You just put yourself up here. Now, nothing that bumps into me is going to move me. I am a static object. I am going nowhere. Now, if something is supposed to auto-return, I just made it temporary. In fact, I'm going to create another temporary object just for comparison. They only last for a certain period of time. That is the entire point of temporary. I believe I've actually discussed this in a previous tutorial. So, the object I'm sitting on is going to run out its temporary timer before the object next to me. But something interesting is going to happen when that occurs. My object isn't going anywhere because it can't while I'm still sitting on it. There are things that can make it do that, but I actually have to do them. I think it just... Did the other one just go? No, not yet. There. Now you can see it. There is a command to kill an object or remove it from world called LL die. And I have that set to die. There it is. It just disappeared. Notice this one is still here because we're sitting on it. But if I click it with die, it goes away. If I hadn't done that, it would have gone away as soon as I hopped off it anyway. As you will see right here. This is also a good thing to do if you're going to create seating in a sim to keep yourself stable. Is setting it temporary once you sit on it means you don't have to worry about remembering if you cleaned it up afterwards. So it's not only... It's a courtesy to another sim. But that is a way to help keep yourself stable because, as I said, sandboxes can be crazy places. Some of them have rules, again, a lot of them have rules against weapons testing or vehicle testing because it's very disruptive to the other people working there, but not all of them. And sometimes those rules get broken and sometimes people aren't monitoring them as closely as they should. Some of them have automated monitoring that look for fast-moving objects, but again, not all. There we go. That one disappeared. So this one should vanish as soon as we stand up. Yep, there it went. So, let me actually do a quick search for a sandbox. Places. Don't really recognize any of these, so we'll just go to the first one. So you notice I have no restriction icons. I can create freely. So this would be a good place to pop to if you just need to work on something, for example. But a lot of sandboxes have specific rules about what you can and cannot do. So always look at the specific rules to make sure that you're okay. Other things for preparing for a significant scripting session. Another thing that makes a big difference is keeping an organized list of references to things. The more complicated something is, the less you want to have to design it from scratch every time. So I keep a large number of scripts that are either fully open that I've used to learn from or that I've worked on myself. I just keep them around to quickly look up. Like, let's see, defense. This one, I actually had some help making to deal with the positional calculations. That this is all about just intercepting a fast-moving object heading towards me. Puts an object in the way to catch it. This is actually a set of vehicle control scripts that I could research if I ever actually decide to really get the hang of vehicle control script. These are a prim shift kit I created that I need to get around to getting somebody to deal with the marketing side so I can actually put it on the market. So keeping a list of scripts like that for reference is another thing that you would want to have as a coder. And then, though I show you all on this little phone HUD I created, and I go through Google for it, that's just because it keeps it all on the screen that I'm recording. It's actually easier to Alt-Tab over to Firefox and just plug in something, keep multiple tabs open with references to different things. You can sometimes find example scripts on the web that will help you understand how to achieve what it is you're trying to achieve. And this isn't just the case for Linden scripting language. I actually have a degree in software engineering. I work with C#, C++, Java, JavaScript, Visual Basic. And actually, when I feel like this series has run its course, I plan on continuing it with those other languages as well. There are plenty of resources out there that help you understand how to achieve particular effects there too. So, that should pretty much cover what you need to understand about what you're working on. Unless you're dealing with an object that is made to move, where you are really doesn't matter. The environment around you kind of does, so there may be times that you want to either take yourself up to a very high altitude or park yourself on something if you're not in a controlled environment. If you're in a place where plenty of randos come through and might be doing rando things while you're trying to code, then those are ways you can help limit their disruption. Now, a way to set yourself up to have a platform to work from why am I not able to do that suddenly? For some reason it was where I was that was the mega frame I'm standing on didn't like that for some reason. I'm just going to take this object, recent, now it's just kind of roughly attached to me. So I'm now flying at almost 5,000 meters. Dropped the object. This is higher than the sim actually permits building. H. We'll do for an example, even if we're in my little city. You add your platform, drop your platform. Now you have something you can actually stand on, sit on, or res objects onto. So, if you're in a sandbox and you just need to kind of get a little bit of personal space, fly up to around 4,000 meters, start flying, go to GTH 4000, and drop a box you've created. Wear the box, add it to your outfit, then right-click it where you can see it on your avatar, and choose Drop. If it doesn't have physics enabled, it will just sit there. Then you can go in and adjust it as needed to make yourself a nice little platform, because you can't res something in thin air. You have to be clicking onto a thing to do it. That is, I think, pretty much... an explanation of why you would be concerned about where you're facing and what's around you when you're working on your scripting. A few examples of how you can lose your object, and a few examples of what to do with things. The other thing that can happen, by the way, is if you're in a sandbox, they all have a certain period of auto return. So let's just sleep. Alright, that script will cause this thing to self-destruct in 40 seconds. So I start working on another script. Give that a moment more. Guess 40 seconds was too long a time to give it. There it goes. And suddenly we get the script object out of range error. We try to save, could not save script because object in it could not be found. In which case, what you'd want to do is you'd have to copy this script and then save it, because that object you can't save it into that object now. Nothing you can do will let you do that. The other thing, if it's a particularly large and complicated script, is external script editor. You can pop it over to here. This puts it in Notepad and makes it a lot easier to maintain track of. Those are pretty much the options you have. So if you're dealing with a case where your object went away and you get that error, back up whatever it is you're doing. Use the external script editor so that you can preserve that work, and then copy and paste it back into your object when you pull it back out of Lost and Found. Because if it's been returned by an object, by a sim, it will be in Lost and Found. If it's deleted, like the one I just created, it's gone. It no longer exists. That copy is toast. So, hopefully this pretty much covers everything you were looking for. It looks like I need to set aside time to fix a blunder from last week's episode. I apologize for the lack of quality control there. Last week was a really hectic week. I actually was passing out trying to get the editing done. Was really tired, so I dropped the ball for y'all on that one and left part of my end card thing on screen. I keep meaning to get around to just making a permanent one that I can just, attach into every video, but I don't always get around to doing everything I should do. So, I will probably get that fixed and re-uploaded for y'all. I still have all the source video from it. I still have the actual files. I haven't deleted those yet, fortunately. So, that is it for this week. Oh, there is one other thing. Somebody mentioned not seeing a Discord link in my SL profile. I will be adding that, but where it's always been from the point that I started having it is in the descriptions of the video. So, that'll be it for now. So, as usual, good day, good luck, happy coding. New videos are up Tuesdays by noon Eastern Standard Time. My trying to contact me in SL is usually not the most effective way. I don't always have as much time for being in SL as I used to. I've got a few other major projects going. But my Discord server is a good place to look for me. The link will be in the video description. I will also add the link to my Second Life profile. So that will be it for the announcements for now. Thank you again, Kizzy for asking questions in there. I welcome those. It really is nice not only to see that people are benefiting from this, but to know what it is that you all want to know. So, without any more fussing about, this is Becca, your Coder Kitty, signing off.
Meow.